Starseed Ascension welcomes guests from a variety of backgrounds to gain perspectives, experiences, and information in the paranormal, spiritual, and ET space. We are a community of spiritual explorers who seek to help raise consciousness. And now, here's your host of Starseed Ascension, Jamie Voss Love.
Hello and welcome back to Starseed Ascension. I am your host, Jamie Voss Love, and tonight we have yet another very special guest who has been with us before. Just a quick announcement, we are about halfway into our Codes of Ascension Intergalactic Summit, which has been going very well, and just wanted to throw out there that registration is still open if you wanted to come on and attend any of the other offerings that go through until the end of the week. So that is cosmiccodesofascension.com. Alrighty, so let's talk a little bit about our special guest today. So just wanted to share about her. Featured on Coast to Coast AM and Gaia TV, Dr. Linda Backman is an expert teacher, regression therapist, and licensed psychologist with 45 years of private practice experience and 30 years of guiding soul regressions. And she was trained by the late, great pioneer, Dr. Michael Newton. And they work together training therapists. And so Linda has conducted literally thousands of these past life regressions and between life soul regressions, both in person and remotely. She founded the Raven Heart Center and Training Institute, and that's in Boulder, Colorado. And that was in '97. And she teaches worldwide, so all over the world. Her books are Soul Design, which is a new one we'll be talking about today, Souls on Earth, The Evolving Soul, and Bringing Your Soul to Light. So she is an international expert in understanding how reincarnation plays a pivotal role in our personal growth and relationships. So please welcome back Dr. Linda Backman.
Thank you, Jamie. It's great to be back with you.
Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so excited to have you back. You know, your information, your books, your work, your research, all very fascinating. And so we love to know that there's some more coming. And we want to talk about that. And so I think last time we talked about Souls on Earth, which we really, took a deep dive into. I personally have worked with you on past life soul regressions, in between life soul regressions, mentorship. So your books are great, and you are the real deal. So just wanted to kind of start off by the people that are new since last time we had the show, and we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this, but if you just want to give a sort of quick recap of how you got into this work, and, you seem to have the trend of, the expert of all different information about the soul. And I noticed that, is a theme of all of the books. And so if you just want to share a little bit about how you got into that before we talk about your new book.
Yeah, okay. I'll do my very best to make that kind of a super short thing. So 31 years ago, Jamie, I always share it as I always say, I was minding my own business as a psychologist in general private practice. I didn't understand anything about soul, reincarnation. That just wasn't on my radar. At least consciously, it wasn't on my radar. And I had a colleague die. I had a colleague transition in 93. And when he transitioned, he started talking to me from the other side. And I thought, well, this is just pretty weird stuff. At least that's what I thought 30 plus years ago. And he began to show me past lives that we had shared. So to make that a very long story short, I discovered that my husband had been aware of his past lives since he was a kid, but he had blocked that out. So I had support, sort of in my home environment. And I trained in how to help people understand who are we as a soul? Where do we come from? Where have our past lives been? Why are we here now? Why do we know we're different? And how do we manage that and serve the purpose for which we came into body?
Beautiful. And so that has led you on to this next part of your adventure. And I would love to just kind of talk a little bit about soul design. I know there's some information about that, maybe how that differs from the books that you have done. Is it kind of an extension of that? Is it based on research? We want to know all the details.
Okay. Well, what happened was, I don't know, this is maybe 18 months ago or something like that. People kept asking me as I guided regression, and one of the aspects of information, one of the pieces of information that comes forward when I guide the soul level regression is, are you a soul that primarily incarnates on Earth? Are you a soul that is, and to use your term, and just make sure readers know, STARSEED is a common term. I use the term interplanetary. It means the same thing. The ET soul means the same thing. So I had, you know this, Jamie, but I had published a book, my third book, Souls on Earth, all about starseeds, or all about IPs, or interplanetary souls. And then I started learning more and more and more, yes, about interplanetary souls, but I began to learn more about angelic souls, souls that come from the angelic realm that come to Earth. And people kept saying, well, Linda, I want to know more about angelic souls. And so it was like, all right, another book needs to be written so that I could put more interplanetary content in that book, but I can put more angelic content in that book. So that's what led to this new book, Soul Design. And what happened, and this probably happens to people that are listening, and for you, Jamie, as well, it's like there's this constant, almost constant intuitive download or intuitive input of, why am I here? What am I meant to do? How do I move forward? And so my guides kept giving me new terminology. So here's the new terminology, just to make it clear. So as everybody knows from what you said, Jamie, I am a psychologist by training, and I always like to jokingly say, but it's true. I used to be a normal psychologist. I haven't been a normal psychologist for a lot of years, but so this term came into my head, soul essence psychology. Very simply explained, what that means is we need to know what's happened in our current life that is a part of SEP, or soul essence psychology, but we need to know who we are as a soul, and we need to work with both and combine those in order to understand ourselves, our skills, our inclinations, our purpose, and all of that. So that's soul essence psychology. Soul essence psychology includes, so what is your soul design? So soul design means, where have you been in your past lives and what happened? Are you earth-based, interplanetary, or angelic? What's your purpose? Sort of those pieces. And how do you connect with your guides and your higher self to move forward in your current life, to know there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, even if you may think you're very different than a lot of other people you come into contact with. So the book title is Soul Design, Past Lives, Life Purpose, what type of soul are you, and how do you work with that?
So would you recommend that the other books are sort of a precursor to this? Is it helpful to know the 3 types of soul that you go more in depth into in the other books, or is there sort of a summary that you have?
That's a great question. I would say to people, I mean, they can put their hands on any of the first 3 books, and the 4th book is on pre-order right now, but will be available late spring, early summer 2025. What's always important is that when I write a book, it has to kind of stand on its own.
Mhm.
So if someone's never read any of my other books, that's fine. You can pick up Soul Design. And because I give explanation about all 3 types of souls, you'll gain information, and you can read that new book, Soul Design, by itself. But if you want more in-depth information about past lives, earth-based souls, and there is a lot of interplanetary material in Soul Design. The previous book that, oh gosh, came out in, I think, 2018, Souls on Earth, is all about interplanetary souls. So they kind of work as what is the fancy word? Compendium, I think is the fancy word.
Sure.
Souls on Earth and Soul Design would be beautiful for people to read both of those.
Okay, wonderful. And just for some of the people, again, that maybe didn't catch the last one, is it possible just to do like a very high level of those 3 different types of souls, and just what you perceive as the soul? Do you perceive it as consciousness, or what's kind of the overarching definition that you?
That's a great question. Okay, so first, what is soul? Soul is that energy that comes from a higher frequency in what we would just easily call the broader celestial realm. So soul energy, one piece that I always think is important to say, the soul is not perfect when the soul is created. The soul is like the young child that needs to go to school in order to learn. So, the kindergartner, the first grader goes to school and begins basic learning. That's true of the soul as well. The soul comes into body to learn. So that's, I think, an important concept. The 3 types of souls, and I'm going to guess, but probably not true of all your listeners, Jamie, but I'm going to guess a lot of your listeners are interplanetary. So what are those 3 types of souls? Earth-based souls, and a lot of people mistake me as saying earth-bound. Earth-bound's a different spiritual term. Earth-based soul means you are a soul that was created to primarily incarnate on Earth in order to grow and evolve, gain wisdom, gain perspective. And as you evolve, you become, you move forward into elements to be of service on the planet. So an earth-based soul, which I actually happen to be an earth-based soul, that means most of my evolution happened on this planet. Lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, almost, sort of ad nauseum, so to speak. Interplanetary souls, and I'll come to angelic souls in a minute, but if you're an interplanetary soul, you don't come here over and over and over and over to evolve, because you evolve somewhere else in the universe. Probably most of your listeners know that. You come from somewhere in the celestial realm. And if you agree to come to Earth to aid humanity's evolution and to keep evolving as your own soul, you come from a healthy culture somewhere in the universe. So if you're a starseed, IP, interplanetary, IP, all the same term, you come from a planet, a star system, a spacecraft, interdimensional energy, and you come here to aid Earth that is struggling to evolve. So that's an interplanetary soul. And then lastly, an angelic soul comes from the angelic realm. An angelic soul serves source. An angelic soul is like an ambassador of source energy or love and compassion energy. Angelic souls sometimes never incarnate. If they do, primarily they come to Earth to aid more of a universal acceptance of all people, that, just kind of put the words love and compassion in capital letters. And that's the purpose of an angelic soul. And quick comment is that you can't be two of the three. You can't be all three of the three. You are only one of the three. But a quick example for me as an earth-based soul, I have had a small number of lives somewhere other than Earth.
Mhm.
And that helps me work with IP clients because I have an understanding to a degree about interplanetary souls.
Okay, beautiful. So is it kind of like the percentage of energy that you bring with you, or just the memory maybe of the incarnations that you've had before to bring that
Yeah,
through?
for me, it sounds like, yeah, you're asking that about me. Well, two things. When we incarnate, when we come into the body, and obviously everybody's human that's listening, or they wouldn't be here.
Right.
When we are born at what I call the diaper stage, we bring a percentage. We bring a holographic portion, fractal, whatever you want to call it. We bring a piece of our soul energy, it's holographic, that causes us to live and breathe, whether you're EB, IP, or angelic. I bring experience, a certain amount of experience, having had incarnations that are interplanetary. But basically, my years of evolution, my lives of evolution, are primarily here. Yeah, which is not the case for an interplanetary soul.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you. I think that gives, a great overview. And I know that's like sort of one of the ingredients to the formula in the soul design book, as well as other things like past life information. Do you want to talk a little bit about what else is involved in the soul essence psychology, and what is the good information to know that can help benefit us on our journeys?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many things to say. So, for your listeners, if they are interplanetary souls or angelic souls, that means you've been here, but you might have been here 5 other times. You might have been here 50 or 60 other times. But unlike me as an earth-based soul, you have not been on Earth functioning within a human body hundreds, if not 1,000 or more times. So what I find when I guide regression is that, and it's all supported by our higher self and our guides. So when I guide regression, it's the guide and the higher self of the client wanting to help my client understand, who am I? Why am I here? What makes me unique? What are the challenges of being in body? What are the gifts of being in body? And I find that interplanetary and angelic souls have at times more difficulty functioning here because here is not familiar. So my role is to facilitate that client learning more about their past lives. Why are they here? What brought them here? Quick example. I worked this morning actually with a client from UK, a man from UK, and he listened to me talk, so he already suspected he was interplanetary. This man works with clients in the UK socialized medical system that often are diagnosed even as adults that are ADHD. So he said a lot of his clients are people in their 40s and 50s who are recently diagnosed as ADHD. My client suspected he was interplanetary, which was validated through his regression. And he himself has some aspects of ADHD. That's simply because there's nothing wrong with him. That's simply because he hasn't been in body on Earth repetitively. And so he's adapting to adjusting to the energy of being IP, being in body and functioning on Earth, and he helps clients work with that. So that's just an
Beautiful.
example of, you know, what's beneficial about learning whether you're EB, IP, or angelic.
Absolutely. And it just kind of makes sense, right? When you look back in your life in retrospect and some of the challenges, and having that awareness and understanding can help you sort of work with that. So very beautiful. And you were mentioning, past lives as a part of that. Just out of curiosity for the people listening as well, I know this sort of like factors into the past life information, but do you just want to quickly touch on past life regression and between lives regression, since you do both of those, and is that also a part of the soul design?
Yes. Okay. That's a great question. So I guide both types of regression. One is called past life soul regression. The other is called between life soul regression. And actually, between life soul regression incorporates past life regression.
Sure.
So past life soul regression is a shorter regression. The purpose of it is to work with the client to allow the client to discover an important past life of theirs that is going to come forward as I guide the regression. And if I'm working, well, no matter what type of soul I'm working with, and sometimes I can get hunches about the type of soul without guiding the longer regression, which I'll explain in a minute. But even though I'm guiding an EB or an IP or an angelic, what I call an AR, an angelic realm soul, they might go to a human past life, or if you're IP or angelic realm, you might go to a past life that didn't happen on Earth. And that does happen there. I mean, probably to spiritual listeners, that's not weird. If I was me 30 years ago, that would be weird. It's of course not weird anymore. So past life soul regression is just that. It's allowing the client's guide and higher self basically to download with my support. Where have you been? Who have you been? What happened? And how does that relate to life today? So that could explain a fear. It could explain a relationship. It could explain something you've always been concerned about, but it comes from past lives, not current life. The longer regression, between lives soul regression, is what I just explained, but we go beyond the end of the past life. The client at the end of the past life basically travels in that normal experience of the soul energy leaves the past life body at the end of the past life, and the client experiences that slice of their soul from the past life elevating from 3D through the fourth dimension, returning back to where the higher self of my client resides in the broader celestial realm. And the client learns what kind of soul they are, why are they in body. The client brings questions to the session, and we pose those questions to the spiritual guide of the client. So that's just simply a longer regression.
Beautiful. So it sounds like it can be in part, if there was a challenge or pattern that they're working through, some answers can come through in that space, and then as well as a better understanding their purpose and their mission and why they are here in this incarnation.
Totally. Yeah. And what might happen, I'll just add this in, Jamie, for people that are interplanetary, souls. Often in the regression, my client travels to their home location in the broader celestial realm, which honestly is both beautifully supportive and explanatory, but utterly fascinating.
Do you ever get people that want to stay in that space when they go there?
Oh, in fact, often it's like, I mean, they know they need to step back into their body and continue their human life. But we learn things like, how did I decide to come into body? Was it easy? Was it not so easy? Was I to some extent kind of fighting against. We always have free will to come into
Right.
body. But yes, I have people saying it's more comfortable here than on Earth.
Yeah, that's funny. I get some people feel like they volunteered, other people feel like they were voluntold.
Yeah, yes, I like that term, voluntold, even though they agree. But yes, it's almost like a little bit of a kind of a shove from behind. You need to do this, and here's why.
A little growth nudge. Well, can't wait to finish even more about this information. We're going to go to a quick break and then we'll return.
The UNX Network classes and workshops are enrolling now for 2025. If you're interested in psychic protection, chakra balancing, dowsing, or perhaps healing with sound and music, visit unxnetwork.com to see our complete series of live and on-demand classes and workshops hosted by the one and only Margie K. For example, in January 2025, you could spend 4 Saturdays with Margie for her exclusive live remote viewing workshop. Margie K is one of the most accomplished remote viewers in the world, and she will share her secrets and totally unique methods in this course. Some courses are open now. Seating is limited for these live courses, so register now at unxnetwork.com. UNX members use promo code XMEM for an additional 15% discount.
This is Margie K, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us #1 on Paranormal Talk Radio.
Ray Hobbs here for the UNX Network as we present a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. They apply Kathara energy work with all of their plants and products. All of their products are made in small batches and third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farms topical salve. It comes in 1 ounce and half-ounce sizes made with all natural ingredients. And from now until January 2nd, use promo code KUNX Holiday for an additional 15% off all CBD products. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the UNX Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com. Promo code KUNX Holiday.
Welcome back to Starseed Ascension. We are here with tonight's special guest, Dr. Linda Backman. Welcome back.
Beautiful. I've been thinking, Jamie, during the break of all the many things I've learned. If we want to focus a bit on interplanetary souls, of what's that home location like? How do people find their home location? Does everybody have a home location? Are there times when interplanetary souls' home locations no longer exist? I can talk a lot about that from, client to client to client experience.
Yes, we would love to hear that. Anything that you're willing and open to share.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, all right, let's see. Let me kind of formulate this so it's not overly confusing. So with some of my clients that are interplanetary, during the regression, the client basically travels to that home location in the broader universe, in the celestial realm, and the client learns what's unique about where I come from, what is unique about the souls at my home location, and so some clients sort of almost automatically during the regression with my support go home And then I begin to ask questions about home. Some of the things, just to give some examples, some of the things the client might learn about home is, oh my gosh, all these things start popping into my mind. That's why I said, oh my gosh. It's like, okay, so sometimes I ask the client, oftentimes I ask the client, describe your physicality where you come from. And probably as you, Jamie, and others listening would imagine, the physicality, the physical structure of the client at their home location is often not, human looking. It might be unique feet. It might be a unique head. It might be unique ears. It might be skin that certainly that isn't, normal human kind of skin. That is very common. So probably listeners know this, but at your home location, you don't necessarily look human. You may look a certain color. You may look like some kind of an insect-like being. That is not far-fetched or unreal. So that happens. We learn things like, do you have romantic partnership at your home location? Do you not? Do you, what's the nutrition like? Do you eat? Are you sustained by the air? And by learning these kinds of unique qualities of where you come from, that often explains, well, why sometimes I have IP soul clients who forget to eat. They can go all day, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't eat breakfast. I didn't eat lunch. And now it's, 8:00 at night or whatever. And I still haven't eaten. It's like, I need to remind, I'm in this human body that requires, normal human nutrition. So very unique aspects of communication, and functioning. And some IP souls come from very left brain cognitive kind of cultures. Some IP souls come from right brained, emotion based, sort of more love and caring and nurturing kind of ways of life. Then at times there are IP souls that come from spacecraft. Their home location is a spacecraft. And I have heard, I wouldn't keep doing this work if I didn't find it completely fascinating. I have heard details about the spacecraft. What are the jobs on the spacecraft? What are the rooms and facilities like on the spacecraft? What is my client's role to manage the workings of the spacecraft? Where does the spacecraft go? What does it do? All that kind of thing. Couple of other quick examples would be, I have IP clients whose home locations no longer exist. Whose home, because that happens.
Yeah.
Planets have a lifespan. Stars have a lifespan. And so then we learn why the client in everyday human life kind of feels like, well, where do I belong? And where's my home? And so we learn things about, well, your soul resides somewhere else now, or your soul works with a group of souls that exist in a non-dense, you can see I can't talk without my hands, that exists in a non-dense location. So that often is an explanation that helps IP soul clients understand, why do they have the feelings in their everyday human life that they're lonely, or where's home and where's grounding? And it helps explain people's thoughts and emotions.
Yeah. I love that. Just, to make sense of those things kind of makes you feel seen and understood, and trying to find community maybe of other people that can understand that is so important. It feels like Well, I know for one that I'm definitely guilty of forgetting to eat. So that was a little personal experience that I went through. And I also love that you can tap into, whether it's through past life or in between, just relationships that might follow into this incarnation, and like understanding those dynamics and whether there's healing or, something to accomplish in this lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie, that's a really important point. Is sometimes I'm working with an IP Soul client, and there's someone in their current life, it could be a family member, could be a friend, could be a romantic relationship, and they're struggling. There's just a disconnect. There's a rub in the relationship. And at times in the regression, the client discovers they had a past life, they had a non-Earth past life with the soul of that human person they know in life today. They had some complex past life somewhere other than Earth, but both souls agreed to come to Earth at the same time, and they're working out something complicated from the non-Earth past life, which is, again, sometimes completely fascinating. Like, oh, you had an existence that wasn't earthly, and now you're trying to work it out here on Earth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw too in the upcoming book, you had mentioned archetypes. Any of the common ones that you see?
Yes. And yeah, that's a whole big subject.
Yeah, probably a whole podcast session at least.
It could be. Yes. I mean, absolutely. That could be a whole podcast session. That's totally true. So let me see if I can give this so it makes sense for people. So on Earth, if we take high frequency energy, if we take source energy, and if people think about, okay, source energy, which is certainly not perfect, but is high frequency advanced energy. If we divide source energy into 7 equal but different parts, different function, different skills, on Earth, on Earth as a soul, we are one of 7 archetypes. That comes from our soul level, and the combining of those 7 equals the intention and the needs on the planet of how Earth could evolve, we might say, farther, faster. So when an IP soul, and I can share that, let's see if I can get this so it makes sense to people. When an interplanetary soul comes to Earth, they take on one of the 7 archetypes, because the archetypes relate to healthy life on Earth and not necessarily healthy life where the IP soul comes from. So those 7 archetypes are each different, but each purposeful. No one is better than another. And if an IP comes to Earth, they are actually almost assigned, you might say, one of the 7 energies, as opposed to if someone is an Earth-based soul, like myself, my soul, when my soul was created and has an immortal archetype, one of those 7, that is unchanging, lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. And if someone on Earth is angelic, their soul energy is always one of those 7, because it's the one of those 7 that is all about love and compassion, and that's what angelic souls are about. So, if I tried to give just a kind of a thumbnail sketch of the 7, the first one is strong and directive. The first one is the archetype of somebody who we might call a change maker. That, if that EB, IP, or AR soul in body on Earth is very directive, leads, kind of the silly example that I always use is Steve Jobs, who obviously, remade the computer industry.
Sure.
Steve Jobs would be a change maker. So that's the first archetype. Second archetype, as I said, is that love, compassion, everyone's needs matter. They lead with heart. They lead with right brain. They lead with, let's make sure we take care of everybody. That's number two. And there's information in my books and in some of the podcasts on my website if people want to discover more about this. Number three is someone, I actually am number three, so I understand it extremely well. Number three is very left-brained, very learning-oriented. How can I gain as much understanding and learning and meld knowledge together to aid the planet? So that's more, you would call that, you could use the word scholar, but I don't mean that in, what's called a third-ray soul. Third-ray soul is not necessarily smarter than someone else, but it is someone that wants to meld knowledge.
Sure.
The fourth is someone who's into aesthetic skills. It could be an artist, a musician, a capable chef, an interior designer. They're merging aesthetic colors, elements, actually energy as well, to a feng shui specialist to balance those elements. That's number four. Number five is an implementer, a strategist. It's the person, it's your favorite friend or your favorite coworker where you say, this event is happening. Could you make sure this is handled, that's handled? It's the planner or the strategist. That's number five. Number six is group energy. How can families, neighborhoods, co-workers, social service organizations, whatever, how can they work together? So it's the coordination of groups of people versus individuals. And then lastly, really, number seven really merges all seven into a sort of like alchemy. It's also often called the Merlin energy. It's that humanitarian and that sustainer of moving a culture forward with all seven energies. So probably people are going, wait a minute, Linda, that's too much at once. People obviously can reach out to me and gain more information, but each of us at the core, no matter what kind of soul we are, has a signature or a backbone of one of those seven, and it's our orientation in our life.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah. Yes, we did get some questions on that in advance, so it feels like, well, you answered the question, and part of it was, is it something that it's easy to discern which particular archetype, or is there more information to explore? So we'll send them to you.
Okay. I'll just say one quick thing, Jamie, about that. This will probably help people. If people can narrow down, they think I'm either number one or number five or something like that. If people can narrow it that way, then probably what happens is they're latching onto their soul archetype, and we have per life, we have a personality archetype. So if they can narrow it just to two and they're confused, I don't know which of those two I am. For listeners, one is probably soul and the other is probably personality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. That makes sense. So you touched a little bit on this just because of all the different methodologies that this information can come forward. Anything else to add about the pre-birth contract and how that fits into sort of the ingredients of your book and soul design?
Yeah, that's a big one. Yes. So probably people know this. Before we incarnate, we create a pre-birth contract. And, some things are unchanging, like I'm tall, I'm short, my skin is this color, or, whatever. My eye color is, although I suppose you could have an eye color and wear contact lenses. But anyway,
Sure.
certain things are unchanging. Other things are, of course, changeable. So before we come into body, we make agreements. This soul is going to be my mother. And I know some people are going, what? Why did I make that decision? But a soul is going to be your mother. These are contractual agreements. And this is partly what I work with people on, because I know all of us will say, why did I choose that person, to be my sibling or whatever? But what's key to the understanding of coming into body on Earth is that we come into body with free will. So we can go against our intentions, like to balance karma from a past life, for example. We can go against those intentions. It's not, I hope that people won't see this as sort of Pollyanna, like, oh, I was meant to end up with X person that was going to be my romantic partner, and that is my soulmate. I think that's if I can be so bold, that's an overdone thing about humans. Like, oh, there's one person on this planet for me. I don't think there's one person on this planet for anyone, but there are souls that we've had repetitive lives with, and that we're perhaps meant to either clean up karma, we're meant to expand the evolution of our life partner, and they're meant to help us expand our evolution. And then I would just add in quickly, the more, how can I say this? The more unique we are, and especially when we're pushing the norms of society. And, I'll put this into the whole framework. There's lots of ways to say this, but the whole framework of the LGBTQ community. Almost always, people that are part of the LGBTQ community are advanced souls, because we're breaking down assumptions and biases. Now, that's not to say that someone that isn't a part of that community is not breaking down assumptions and biases.
Sure.
But I find advanced souls are willing to push the envelope in a zillion different ways on our planet.
They choose the non-traditional.
That's right. The non-straight and narrow.
Yeah.
I mean,
or programmed path.
That's right. Of course, as did I, even though people would meet me and say, oh, well, Linda, you happen to be married for a long time and you have children and grandchildren. Okay, fine. That looks pretty traditional. But the work I do is obviously not very conventional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I fit into that box as well. So I'm just going to keep validating.
I do know that. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, definitely want to just ask a couple of questions, just kind of what you have coming up and how people can work with you. But before we do, what else do you feel is the most important to add about your new book that's coming up, and any other revelations you care to share?
Yeah, I mean, what's always important to me, Jamie, is that obviously people who choose to work with me or choose to work with you and choose to understand the broader perspective of life, we are all unique, and we don't kind of fit in certain ways the norm that maybe our culture says you're supposed to fit into a box. And so one thing people might find interesting, I'll say this briefly, but having guided regression for years, at times asking similar questions to a multiplicity of clients, more experienced souls on the planet. We're not better than anybody else. We just, have worked through a lot of lives and a lot of learning, but right. More experienced souls are not the norm on our planet. More experienced souls are the 5 to 8% or so of humans on the planet. But that means we came into body with agreements. We came into body if we choose to step forward with it, and that's always up to us. But we came into body again to push the envelope of broadening the understanding and acceptance of life on Earth. So we're not the norm. We know we're not the norm. That's why we seek out programs like yours, Jamie, things I do, and other spiritual teachers. But we came with purpose.
Yeah, I love that, and I always share that with people too. It's not that anyone on this planet is better or worse. We all have a role to play. The roles look different, but it really helps, kind of being, I find that like IP souls are kind of spread out because to kind of shift systems and different things. So to come together and have community and different resources like yourself is a beautiful thing, whether angelic or earth as well. So we're very grateful for the work that you do, and appreciate you so much. And just out of curiosity, what kind of went into this book? Is it a combination of research and experience? Were there other people you interviewed, or was it just all based on your own work?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you're asking that. All of my books, including the new book called Soul Design, are filled with client regression material. So each chapter, of course, has a subject, but each chapter, the teachers are the clients. The teachers are what came through in client regression that illuminates certain understanding about who we are, why we're here, where do we come from, why have we had a lot of loss in our life, what does that mean? Why do we deal with certain aspects of our life? But the new book is filled with client regression material to kind of expand and illuminate all the topics.
All right, I love it. I actually have this one right here, even though we're talking about soul design, and I always like to read this little passage. There's so many good things in here because of the fact, like you said, it is real regressions and the sheer number of them and just the differences. And there's so many relatable things that makes you wonder, okay, if I had a regression, like some of these things that I'm dealing with, it makes sense. And there's this person who sort of has camouflaged his identity, so to speak. And what he realized was that if he were to bring his sort of abilities and his role and mission, then, humanity could benefit from that wisdom. So I think that you're also helping create that sort of stepping stone for safety to come out and better understanding of, again, what you're sort of here to do and give yourself meaning in that way. Very beautiful.
Totally. I think that is one of the key reasons that people have regressions is who am I really and why am I here and how can I validate myself and move forward with my life and my purpose for being here.
Definitely. So you have the Raven Heart Center. I know you do training for both PLSR and BLSR. You take people to Egypt and probably other trips. Anything that you want to share that's going on, or any other recommendations of how to work with you? We have your site and links posted.
Yeah, I mean, I continue in an ongoing way to guide regression. All the regression that I guide, actually, since COVID, is all done on Zoom. So it's all remote. And the end of 2024 and then into 2025, I am training people in both levels of regression, and there will be, that's sort of a new, felt like it was time to begin to create more of a legacy project with what I do. So people can go to my website. They will see that with both levels of training, there's going to be a community of people working with clients and building that community. And I don't do a lot of taking people on tour, but I am I'm co-leading a tour to Egypt in February 2025 with a colleague who is an Egyptologist, and she lives in Egypt. And that's to dive into the ancient energy of the Egyptian dynasties that largely were impacted by interplanetary souls. So people can go to my website and, find what I'm up to.
Very cool. Okay, very last question. The book's coming out soon. This is just a personal curiosity. Are you super focused on that, or like as you're doing this, are other ideas coming to the surface for future projects?
So are you saying, am I focused on the book, or am I focused on, what might be the next book or the next?
Or is there like a little idea kind of lingering in the
Well, that's an interesting question. And of course, my guides and my higher self guide me. And to be honest, sometimes I don't even know what's going to be the new next step. The new book, of course, is not, people can't put their hands on it yet. There's a lot of broad-based material in that new book so that people understand what we've talked about. What is my soul design? And that's going to be taking that forward to helping people basically accept who they are and impact humanity in the way they came to impact humanity. So at least in my conscious awareness at the moment, that's where it's headed.
That's perfect. And I love how you answered that. We're not even in linear time anymore, just intuitive. When it drops in, it comes in perfect divine time.
That is correct.
All right. So you can pre-order that on Amazon. We put all of the links to everything to get a hold of you. And just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, everyone listening and watching. And until next time, may you find peace in the mysteries of the cosmos. Much love.
Thank you, Jamie.